Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the 2019 University of Pennsylvania Law School academic procession.
Good afternoon. As Dean of the University of Pennsylvania Law School, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the Law School's 167th Commencement Convocation and to serve as your Master of Ceremonies. Please rise for the invocation, or stay risen for the invocation, which will be delivered by our Interim Dean of Students, Felicia Lynn.
We ask for blessings on us as we gather here to celebrate the lives, work, and futures of these men and women. We give thanks for the abilities they have been given and for the love their families and friends have shown them. We give thanks for the dedication of the many teachers, both inside and outside the law school, who have helped them grow. We ask for guidance in their lives so that their work serves the highest ideals of justice. In the city that was the birthplace of America, we ask that these graduates and all of us gathered here are inspired to work for truth, justice, and the betterment of this nation and the world. Amen.
Good afternoon, and congratulations to you, the class of 2019. It is with immense pride that I address you today on this auspicious occasion. Today we mark the completion of your law school education and the beginning of your continuing education in the law as active and committed participants. Whether you were here for 3 years or just one, you've realized and embodied the best vision of a Penn Law education. You've completed a rigorous interdisciplinary course of study in which over 3/4 of you JD graduates are leaving Penn Law not just with a JD, but with a degree or certificate from one of Penn's other great schools. You've demonstrated a commitment to lawyering in the public interest, performing tens of thousands of hours collectively of pro bono community service locally, nationally, and globally that I urge you to continue throughout your legal careers, no matter what kind of practice setting you're in. You've applied your talents and your values and your charisma to leading our campus community in over 80 student groups whose activities range from roiling and robust and pointed political debates to more genteel activities like the Penn Law Boxing Club. My colleagues and I had a good sense of your outstanding credentials and experience and backgrounds before you even showed up here, but you've impressed us beyond all expectations in the years since. Joining me in heartily congratulating you and celebrating you today are my colleagues on the Penn Law faculty and staff, as well as distinguished alumni. We collectively celebrate your achievements, we celebrate your opinions and your values, we celebrate your potential amidst all of the uncertainties of our profession and the broader world in which you enter. We send you out into a world that is changing rapidly and where many challenges and opportunities await. We know that we've provided you with the legal tools, with the knowledge, and with the analytical skills to meet the challenges and solve many of the remaining problems in our legal, political, and economic system that my generation has done you the favor of not adequately solving. We've left much work for you to do. But while we've given you top-flight training, we haven't given you that most important attribute going forward, your inherent sense of justice and your motivation to tackle the problems that face our country and our world. It's important to acknowledge and celebrate that other attribute that you had that we at Penn Law can't take primary credit for, your own principled distinction of right and wrong. This internal compass you had far before you came to law school, and you will carry it with you throughout your careers, wherever your careers and whatever twists and turns your careers take you. Nurture this sense of justice and the passion that brought you to law in the first place. Protect it and let it be your guide as you encounter tough decisions in the years ahead. At the same time, be ready to challenge your existing views, revising them in response to new information and exposing yourself to smart and principled people whose sense of justice might be different than your own. As you combine your sense of justice with the formidable legal skills you've learned here, you can take strong, principled positions. That's what the best lawyers do, no matter the practice area, across a wide range of regions and practice settings. It's important to pause here and acknowledge the many people in attendance who helped you develop these values you brought with you to Penn Law, who helped you form your sense of justice, and who are even more proud of you than we are here on stage, even more responsible for your success and your achievement. Your parents, your families, your partners, your spouses, your friends, please join me, graduates, in showing appreciation for these people who have been so important to you. We know that as Penn Law graduates, you're as well poised as any law graduates in the country to enter an excellent job in a few months. Yet even as you prepare for that first job, I encourage many of you, and forgive me, please be, you stood up for all that, even as you prepare for this first job, I encourage you to remember that a job is distinct from a career, and that for many of you, this job will only be your first step in the winding path in the law, inside the law or outside of it, a career that might go down so many paths that you can't even envision today. This past weekend, we do our reunions, running right into the graduation festivities, so it's been a wonderful few days of celebration about the long continuity of Penn Law that you're about to enter. I've had the privilege of talking with Penn Law alums from the class of 1951 and 1952, as well as some of our most recent graduating classes who've come back to campus. And I can't tell you how many of those graduates say to me, as they're kind of raving about their memories of Penn Law, I never ever would have imagined in law school that I would be doing this today. So many of them have moved on in directions that we can't expect, we can't predict, and you certainly can't expect, but we have prepared you for, and you're ready to tackle any opportunities, no matter how unforeseen, that come up to you. 3 alumni I saw on Saturday night exemplified this trend. They had started at 3 different law firms. One of them stayed there and is a partner now. Another left her firm and is working with an organization, a nonprofit, on behalf of women's rights. And another has had 4 jobs since leaving Penn Law and is currently general counsel of a major tech company whose name you would recognize. This is not unusual, this story, but what's vivid is that these were all alums, former students of mine, from the class of 2009. So in the first decade out, as many of you will encounter things that you just can't predict as you're sitting here, your careers will take you in directions that you may not envision at all today. Embrace those opportunities. Be prepared to seek those opportunities if your first job is not everything you hoped for. And we've seen over the generations that people who come out of this law school find their paths in many different ways, in ways that is a continual process of updating throughout their career. These opportunities will present themselves that may not exist now. Be open to them as you march through the first decade of your career. You're heading out this year into a world of tremendous change, both for yourselves and the profession, and indeed for the world around us. But one thing remains constant. You are all part and are always part of the Penn Law community, and that doesn't end once you receive your degree. This will always be your law school, and as the faculty, staff, and alumni on stage can attest, you're always welcome here. You'll always have a home here. I extend my deepest congratulations and thanks to you, the class of 2019. Now let's hear from some of these amazing graduates who will be speaking this morning. Our first class speaker is Nakul Nayak for the LLM class. Nakul is the recipient of this year's Google Public Policy Fellowship, and after graduating from Penn Law, he will work at the Global Network Initiative in Washington, D.C., focusing on digital human rights issues. Please join me in welcoming Nakul Nayak.
Thank you, Dean Ruger, for such a warm and generous introduction. Good afternoon, everybody, and good evening to my family back home in India, who have hopefully figured out the technology and are live streaming this. Tackling technology has never been our forte, you see. I'm so incredibly honored to be the voice of the great Penn Law class of 2019, LLM class of 2019. More than a year ago, after I was admitted to Penn Law, but before I made the decision to join, a delegation of Penn Law students and faculty members were in Delhi and organized a dinner for undecided students such as myself. At the dinner, a JD student told me, every year I'm amazed at how the LLMs become one big family in the blink of an eye. And I thought to myself, 100+ highly trained lawyers becoming family in about 10 months, there's a high chance that one of us stabs another while debating the intricacies of a banal Blue Book entry. But sure enough, here we are sharing this stage a year and a blink of an eye later as one big family, the LLM family of 2019. We LLMs are a curious bunch. We are established lawyers from around the world who have decided to uproot our stable lives and come here to pursue round 2 of law school. A daunting task in itself, till it dawns on you that we're doing it in a country that we don't call home, and for the majority of us, in a language that we don't even consider our own. So wiser people would probably call us sadistic, and that may not be so far from the truth. But in this backdrop of adversity also lies some of the most inspiring personal stories that I've ever come across, such as Alonzo, who was diagnosed with cancer at the start of this year and underwent surgery in late April during our final exams. Or like Hiba, who was pregnant at the start of the year and gave birth during the course. Or like Allison, a mother of 2, who left her younger daughter behind in South Korea, came with only one daughter, and thereby missed a lot of personal milestones, such as her younger daughter's first walk, first words, etc., and etc. And I can go on and on and on. All these stories also serve to highlight the importance of you guys, our loved ones. So even though Dean Ruger stole my thunder and asked you guys to applaud, you guys are so nice that we have to applaud twice. So please join me in giving our family, friends, and our mentors the round of ovation that they deserve. We are grateful for you, and we couldn't have come this far without your support. Even though we get a degree from this, you don't. And so know that this degree is as much yours as it is ours. So I come back to us, the LLMs, and our LLM family. We frankly shouldn't be possible because we fall within every man-made fault line imaginable. We come from warring countries, we come from warring religions, and we fall within every shade of the sexuality, race, caste, and other social spectrums. And our public leaders increasingly demand that we embrace these fault lines, that they make us who we are. But this year has taught me that they're wrong, that the man-made fault lines that they peddle in are precisely that, they're man-made. Our true identity lies within each of us, underneath the received identities that we are born into. And the best part is we get to decide. We get to decide who we are. We get to choose our friends. We get to pick our lovers. Now, as a random blogger on the internet once said, you've got to cite your sources, right? As a random blogger on the internet once said, it's not the eyes that sees, it's the eye that sees. And the LLM has proved to me that if the eye wants to, the eye sees beyond the dogmas that divide and looks for the person that's inside. And there's nothing new in what I've said here, of course, and each of us kind of already knew all this before getting here. But the LLM has ensured that we've lived through it as well. Because you see, there's a difference between theory and lived experience. Theoretically, free food, of course, saves us money. but lived experience suggests that free food even tastes better, especially when you're drowning in like $60,000 of law school debt. So it's important that we keep reminding ourselves about the lived experiences that we've gone through this year, because we're privileged to be here and we're destined to be successful. And these ideas and these questions of identity will keep cropping up in our professional and personal lives, whether we're diplomats hashing out the terms of peace treaty, or as law firm partners making hiring decisions, or even as ordinary citizens in our daily transactions, such as deciding whether to sublease our apartments to foreigners. So who knows, if enough of us act on our lived experiences from this year, we might bring about world peace, we might root out discrimination, or just generally we might create a more just society. Because knowing that I am in control of who I am, and I get to decide who I want, what I see from somebody else, can lead to some magical things, like creating a family out of 116 strangers in the blink of an eye. So thank you, everybody, and once again, congratulations to the Penn Law LLM class of 2019.
Thank you, Nakul. Thank you for that terrific speech, and we're so proud of you and your fellow LLM graduates. Now allow me to introduce our JD class president, Zach Dunn. After graduation, Zach will join the New York office of Fried Frank, Harris Shriver, and Jacobson as an associate, and he has been a tremendously visible and energetic and excellent leader throughout his 3 years here at the JD, in the JD program. Welcome, Zach.
My Penn Law career has been the single most profound period of loss I've had in my entire life. I've lost hours and hours of studying each day. And to be a little more specific, I definitely lost hours and hours of studying each day as a 1L. I'm not so sure I could say the same thing about 3L. I also lost the great GPA that I brought with me from my undergraduate institution. You may be thinking, wow, Zach, isn't law school supposed to be on a generous curve? The answer to that question is yes. Hence, when asked by my extended family members how I've performed in law school, my mother is always quick to point out the things that I've done well outside of the classroom. Thanks for that, Mama Bear. At Penn Law, in various intervals, I've had bouts of lost confidence. I was much less sure of myself in a variety of respects than I had ever been before. During my time at Penn Law, I also lost a childhood friend. In a nutshell, growing up, there was a group of 7 people that I spent nearly every single day with for about 3 years. And coming from a military family, it was quite rare and special for my sister and me to find such a large and meaningful group of friends. Well, it turns out that during the first year of law school, one of the members of that group passed away. He had gotten in with the wrong crowd, and he overdosed on heroin. On top of losing my childhood friend, I also lost my grandfather. To keep it short, I will tell you that my poetry-loving grandfather and I were kindred spirits. It was the day after the first year of law school, the very next day, that the woman providing care for my grandfather called me, and she told me his time was short. She informed me that while my grandfather had lost his ability to speak, he could still hear. So, what do you say to someone you deeply love when you know that this is the last thing you'll ever say to them? In that 2-minute eternity, I shared my love, my unending reverence, and my favorite memories. My grandfather passed away only a few hours after that phone call. So there you have it. My Penn Law career has been profound in its experience with loss and the irreversible sense of loss. However, with this loss has come grace. With this loss has come humility. With this loss has come reflection, redemption, and rebirth. With this loss has come love. Sure, I may have lost time studying, but what a blessing to be given the opportunity to study. I've heard countless stories from my classmates detailing how it was the sacrifices of their parents and relatives that put them in a position to succeed here at Penn Law. The hard work of the generations that came before them, this is what enabled them to study and work towards a better life. And sure, I may not have gotten the best grades in class, but I was surrounded by kind, generous, and inspiring people in those classes. In my class, the class of 2019, the greatest class, by the way, that this university has ever seen. Woo! Love you guys. In this class, you will find future world leaders, future business executives, future protectors, and advocates. And you'll find future members of society that are intent on and empowered to make a difference not only in their respective communities, but in this world. At Penn Law, as noted earlier, I may have had bouts of lost confidence, but I also had Tracy Chapman, James Taylor, and Montgomery Gentry on repeat. Tracy Chapman told me that in Sub-City, life is hard. James Taylor told me stories of fire and rain. And Montgomery Gentry told me that I'm a lucky man, and I've been given a pretty fair hand. At Penn Law, I may have lost friends and family, but there is nothing I am more thankful for than the friendships and the family members that I have gained over the course of these past 3 years. You could take out of my Penn Law experience everything, truly everything, except for the relationships that I've made along the way, and I still would have had a rich, fulfilling experience. The class of 2019 is filled with people that will call you unprompted, just to check in on you. Will smile at you and talk to you as you pass them in the hallway. Will confide in you and share their vulnerabilities with you. On top of that, this class is filled with people that have gone out of their way to be a friend to someone in need, that have sought only to give and expected nothing in return, and people that have become roommates, that have become best friends. In other words, they've become people that you know you'll be able to count on for the rest of your life. Hence, to the administration, faculty, and staff, thank you for all you've done to support my classmates. To the loved ones we've all lost, and the loved ones in attendance today, thank you for your love, support, and compassion. Your decades of love has enabled this very special class of graduates to share that love, that support, and that compassion with each other. And to the class of 2019, I am honored to be one among you. Thank you, and congratulations on your graduation and your accomplishments. There isn't enough room in all of Texas to contain the love that I have for y'all. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Zach, for those remarks. One of the things I'm most grateful for as dean of this institution, and one of our enduring strengths here at Penn Law, is our brilliant and committed faculty who teach our students and engage in top-flight scholarship. Every year we have two groups of students, the JDs and the LLM class, elect among themselves faculty teaching awards to honor two of our many tremendous teachers. And it's my great pleasure to announce these awards now. First, the Harvey Levin Award for Teaching Excellence, as chosen by the graduating 3L JD class, will be presented to Professor Mitch Berman by 3L class officer Jean Gabat, who
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the kind remarks, Professor Ruger. I'm Jean Camille Gabat, class officer of the Penn Law JD class of 2019. The Harvey Levin Award recognizes and honors one faculty member each year for excellence in teaching. All Penn Law faculty are excellent in their own rights. So I'd first like to thank all of the professors who have acted as our mentors, guiding us through the toughest and most rewarding 3 years of our lives thus far. This year, the JD class of 2019 is delighted to specially honor an exceptionally excellent teacher, Professor Mitch Berman. Professor Berman teaches in American constitutional law and theory, philosophy of criminal law, general jurisprudence, and philosophy of sport. And in the city of brotherly love, where die-hard fans worship a furry, orange, googly-eyed, who knows what, and risk their lives climbing Crisco-greased lampposts. What better way to understand the law than through sports? And as future lawyers, what better way to understand sports than through the law? For example, who knew that the Kentucky Derby instant replay is akin to appellate review? Or that the NBA employs varying standards of proof when calling personal fouls? That type of original, innovative, and thought-provoking thinking is exactly what makes Professor Berman an excellent teacher. Not only is he passionate, engaging, brilliant, and understanding, but through his teaching, Professor Berman has encouraged us to explore and satiate our curiosities. And more importantly, he has inspired us to open our minds to new possibilities that we had never seen before. And so, a verdict has been reached, a play has been called, and the JD class of 2019 has spoken. Professor Mitch Berman is one of the finest examples of distinguished faculty that Penn Law has to offer. Please join me now in congratulating this year's recipient of the Harvey Levin Memorial Teaching Award for Excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mitch Berman.
Hello, graduates of Penn Law. Sounds good, right? Congratulations. Thank you, Gene, for those really warm, extraordinary remarks. I appreciate that. I don't know how accurate they were, but they sure were gratifying, so thank you. One thing that Gene didn't say about me, but she could have with fairness, is to quote two great people, Zach Dunn quoting Montgomery Gentry. Okay? I'm a lucky man. And I'm a lucky man for the same reason that all of my colleagues arrayed behind me are lucky people. And that's because we have the opportunity in our professional lives to teach and interact with such an extraordinary array of talented, curious, interesting, and attractive young people. It is a gift for us to teach here at Penn Law, and I am very grateful for that gift. It is entirely something else on top of that gift to receive the honor of the Harvey Levin Memorial Award, which is an honor that I really could never have reasonably expected to achieve. It really does mean more to me than you are likely ever to know. I am profoundly grateful for this honor, and I will remember the class of 19 with fondness for a long, long time. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. Congratulations to each of you, and Godspeed to all of you on your journeys hereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Mitch, for your wonderful commitment to our students. Our next award is the LLM Award for Teaching Excellence, which will be presented by our LLM class president, Rodrigo Martinez, who after graduation will return to Mexico City in a law firm there, and our LLM vice president, Paulina Flores, who will stay and work in New York City. They will be presenting the LLM Teaching Award as chosen by the entire LLM class to Professor Herbert Hovenkamp.
Thank you, Dean Ruger. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rodrigo Martinez, and I'm the class president of the LLM class of 2019. Alongside Paulina Flores, our vice president, I am delighted to present the LLM Prize for Excellence in Teaching to Professor Herbert Hovenkamp. This award is granted annually by the graduating LLM class in recognition for the teaching excellence of a member of the law school faculty. Professor Hovenkamp is a world-renowned scholar in antitrust policy and law. He is regarded as the most influential scholar of his generation. His writings have been cited in more than 50 Supreme Court decisions and in more than 1,000 decisions of the lower courts. In 2008, he received the John Sherman Award from the Antitrust Division of the Department of Justice, which is granted only a few times a decade for an outstanding achievement in antitrust law, for contributing to the protection of consumers and to the preservation of economic liberty.
Fellow classmates, family, and faculty, I'm truly honored to stand here and speak to you today. It was by luck and destiny that I met Professor Hovenkamp during my first days at Penn last summer. I overheard that he was looking for a research assistant, and I emailed him right away because I knew a lot of students would be pleased to be his research assistant, and I really wanted to become it. A few minutes later, I was at his office for a really unexpected interview. And at the end, I'm very grateful to him that, and I was immensely excited to have the opportunity to work for him, as much as or as little as my studies allowed me. For all of us, attending your class, Professor, has been a true privilege. It meant the chance to learn antitrust through the eyes of an expert who has set doctrine all over the world, including Mexico, my country. Thank you, Professor, for teaching at Penn. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, time, for being patient and understanding. Thank you for always accepting all of our questions. And thank you for teaching two different insightful and impactful classes in antitrust during this year. I have no words. I'm very delighted to offer you, on behalf of this LLM class, the Prize for Excellence in Teaching. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This was completely unexpected for me. I've only been here 2 years. They've been 2 of the most satisfying years of my academic career. To be in the presence of a wonderful law school community, a terrific faculty, and a truly wonderful student body. I've really enjoyed it. I feel flattered and grateful and humbly accept this award.
Thank you, Rodrigo and Paulina and Herb Hovenkamp. We now turn to the presentation of the 2019 class gift, and I appreciate the participation of so many of you in this. The gift will be presented by 2 of your 3L JD class officers, Kari Cyrus and the flag bearer, who you may or may not have noticed, Brian McIntyre. I'll say both of these leaders will be heading off to judicial clerkships next year, Kari with the Honorable Judge Thomas Schroeder, in the Middle District of North Carolina, his home state. And Brian will be clerking for Judge Richard Caputo in Pennsylvania, in the Middle District of Pennsylvania. Thank you, Brian and Kari, and all the members of the class of 2019.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished faculty, fellow classmates, my name is Brian McIntyre, and along with my classmate Kari Cyrus, as two of your 3L class officers, we were charged with helping to create a class gift for the class of 2019. The class gift is a way in which members of the graduating class join together to leave a lasting impression on their school and remind future generations of Penn Law students of their 2019 brethren and this idea of perpetual community among us, past and present and future graduates. And while this class, with its brilliant academics, its weekend warriors, its social justice advocates, activists, its bar review loyalists, and its altogether relentless spirits, has left an everlasting impact in a multitude of ways. It is still nice to leave behind a tangible representation of our class and its influence. As such, our class has raised over $1,000 for a class gift.
So I think I speak for everybody when I say that one of the best parts of Penn Law is the people and the relationships that we build over our time here. So I'm not sure if you've heard, but we like to consider ourselves to be pretty collegial. In choosing a class gift, we wanted to select something that advances relationship building and collegiality. In line with that goal, we will use the funds from the class gift to purchase a communal item for the new Clinton Parker Student Wellness Suite. So to put an image in your mind, think ping pong table, pool table, maybe a TV, something along those lines. Something that builds community and allows students to gather together. So thank you to all those who have donated or will donate in the future. Your contribution will help keep Penn Law a place where relationships really matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Kari and Brian, and thank you to all of you who gave to the class gift. I promise we're never in your whole careers again going to ask you for money. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. That was wrong speech. Okay. So it's my great honor now to introduce this year's commencement speaker, herself a Penn Law graduate, Kalpana Kotagal. Kalpana Kotagal is a 2005 graduate of Penn Law. I'm so pleased to welcome you back to Philadelphia and to our campus earlier today. She embodies in her career and in her values the very best of Penn Law. Throughout her not so long but incredibly distinguished career since 2005, she's been dedicated to championing equity, diversity, and inclusion, both in her own work and in her service to the legal profession and industries, some of the nation's and world's most important industries. She's here because she's an inventor, an innovator in the law. Her invention has received national acclaim and is transforming a billion-dollar industry in California even as we speak. But this innovation is not made out of silicon chips or computer code, nor is, perhaps sadly, is it subject to patent protection. Kotagal's innovation uses the same tools that creative lawyers have for centuries. Indeed, even the men who met here in Philadelphia 240 years ago invented something very durable. They used, just like Kalpana Kotagal and her colleagues, they used words, text, clauses to achieve something new in the world. Kotagal is the primary legal thinker behind the inclusion rider, a contractual term used in private negotiations by highly valued star talent in Hollywood and other industries to leverage from the company as a whole, greater overall focus on inclusion and diversity in the many other jobs behind the camera, beyond the star level. The Innovation Rider was celebrated by name by actress Frances McDormand in last year's Oscar Awards in her speech, and in the past year has garnered support and acclaim from stars such as Brie Larson, Michael B. Jordan, and Matt Damon. It's been adopted as standard practice by some major studios, even as many others are under pressure to do better, thanks to the work of Kotagal and her team of colleagues. She's done all this and much else in a remarkably short time, graduating from Penn Law in 2005. She came to Penn from Stanford Law School, where she graduated with honors. Her first job out of Penn Law was as a law clerk to Judge Betty Fletcher of the Ninth Circuit. She then moved into private practice in a nationally acclaimed public interest private firm, Cohen Milstein. And during her legal career in Washington, D.C., in her case, and in her career, she's been a fearless advocate for plaintiffs facing off against some of the biggest corporations in the country or the world. As a high-profile employment lawyer, she focuses her work on civil rights law, employment law, class actions, mandatory arbitration cases, and diversity in the workplace. She has played in her career an integral role in representing Walmart employees in the landmark Supreme Court class certification cases, Dukes versus Walmart, and that was just the beginning. Today, she represents female sales employees seeking fair compensation and an end to sex discrimination at one of the nation's largest jewelry store chains. She also represents former female sales employees who are taking on AT&T for alleged violations of Title VII, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Family and Medical Leave Act. I mentioned earlier the notoriety and impact in the film industry that her inclusion rider is having already. The legal profession has taken note of our graduate and her tremendous success. Chambers Law USA awarded her the prestigious Outstanding Contribution to the Community and Advancing Diversity Award, and she was selected last year as a Wasserstein Public Interest Fellow at Harvard Law School. Most recently, Law 360 recognized her as one of the top 5 most influential employment lawyers in the country. She stands as a wonderful example of how Penn lawyers in the private sector and in the public sector can use your careers to affect positive, meaningful change in the world around you, and all in the first decade and a half after today. Please join me in welcoming one of our stars, Kalpana Kotagal.
I am just overwhelmed. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. To the graduating class of 2019, congratulations. Congratulations to you all. Today is truly a special day, a day to celebrate all that you have achieved here at Penn and to revel in all that lies ahead for you. I feel truly humbled and a little bit nervous to be addressing you at this milestone that this also marks a homecoming for me has made this feel truly poignant. It wasn't really so very long ago that I was sitting where you are today, and my family was sitting where yours is. As the child of immigrants in a family of doctors, literally, parents, sister, grandparents, uncles, aunts, they're all doctors. I'm literally the only lawyer. I wasn't familiar with the cultures and the norms and the institutions of the profession I was joining. But it seemed then, as it still does, a compelling path to making the world a more just place. That's what drew me to the law in the first place. When I graduated, we were in the middle of an important national discourse about war and peace, immigration, executive powers, the Supreme Court. Does any of that sound familiar? Regardless of your politics, that national discourse has only grown more urgent and more intense, and lawyers play a crucial role in it. You graduate, as the dean said earlier, at a watershed moment, both for our profession and for the nation. for they are inextricably linked and have been from the very beginning. So I want to talk today about rules and tradition and hierarchy, all hallmarks of our profession, but also about how to stretch and extend, and yes, sometimes break them. I recently reread Mary Oliver's poem, 3 Things to Remember. She wrote, "As long as you're dancing, you can break the rules. Sometimes breaking the rules is just extending the rules. Sometimes there are no rules." Now, I'm not sure about the part about there are no rules. I don't endorse that as a lawyer. But I will say that as a woman of color and a child of immigrants, there have been plenty of moments where I have felt like everyone else knows the rules. They know the language. I felt like an outsider. It happens to me even now. And when it does, I have to remind myself, Kalpana, you are a partner at a law firm. You do meaningful work. You belong in that room. You belong at that table. But I'm coming into my own with help from my own little pep talks and those of my mentors and my family and my friends. I'm also learning that where I thought there were rules that I didn't know, really, I think there were just well-trod paths, certainly bounded by foundational, unbreakable rules, no question about it, but not as limiting as I had thought. I am here to tell you that with hard work, you can learn the skills and the substantive law and those rules that truly can't be broken, and then you can make your own path. Here's my story as an example. Even if you've never heard of me, you might have heard of the inclusion rider. As Dean Ruger just described, it's a contractual provision that Hollywood stars can use to leverage their power to address potential bias in the hiring process. For our purposes, the inclusion rider is a story about using traditional legal tools, contract, in unorthodox ways to create a new path. It's also a story about data and activism and intersectionality, a story about women lifting each other up, but those are stories for another day. While the inclusion rider has had its own spotlight these last 15 months, it really has just been one part of what has occupied me professionally since I left law school not really that long ago. I've actually been learning how to be a litigator and representing workers and other victims of discrimination in class actions. I've studied how to write compelling briefs and take effective depositions, to manage complex discovery, and work with clients, many of whom have experienced real trauma. And as my knowledge of the law deepened, I began to recognize industries with serious problems. In the case of Hollywood, that didn't really require much effort, as Stacy Smith, who founded the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative at USC and who is one of my co-authors on the Inclusion Rider, has been documenting the industry's stagnation in hiring people from marginalized groups. Stagnation for decades. So against that backdrop, 3 women, Stacy, Fanchen Cox of Pearl Street Films, and I came together to develop a new strategy. Late on a Sunday night in March, a little bit more than a year ago, the Academy Awards were unfolding in Los Angeles. I had watched for a while, but anticipating an incredibly busy week ahead and an early morning with my kids, I'd gone to bed. And while I slept, Frances McDormand won the Academy Award for Best Actress. During her acceptance speech, she asked all the women nominees to stand and said, "I have 2 words to leave with you tonight, inclusion rider." And then she grabbed her gold man and ran off the stage, leaving everyone wondering what she was talking about. If you look at the Google search metrics from that night, there's like a spike at 11:30 of people asking, what is an inclusion rider? I slept through the excitement. I woke up the next morning. It was late winter, it was dark, I was slow to wake. I picked up my phone from my bedside table and glanced at it and nudged my husband, "Wyatt, I think something happened with the inclusion rider last night." For my part, I had promised to demonstrate some dance steps to my son's kindergarten class that morning. And so, in between walking a room full of 6-year-olds through classical Indian dance steps, I had to duck out to the faculty lounge to take phone calls from reporters. When I sat in Professor Finkelstein's contracts class 1L year, I had no idea that any of this was to come. The nuts and bolts of the inclusion rider go something like this. Stacy's research shows that in movies, only a handful of on-screen characters are really necessary to the narrative arc of the film and therefore to the film's economic viability. So that leaves like 2 to 3 dozen other smaller roles that could, with minimal complication, yield a more robust pipeline for on-screen diversity. Here we're talking about the doctors and the caregivers, the shopkeepers, the waiters, the police officers, all of the folks that fill out the communities that take shape on screen. Stacy and Fanchen and I began working together on the inclusion rider in 2016, considering those on-screen roles as well as roles behind the camera, and how we might address the need to cast and actually hire qualified candidates from underrepresented backgrounds. So the inclusion rider template that we developed is a flexible and adaptable framework for talent and their lawyers and agents to take into negotiations with studios. It focuses on auditioning and interviewing and sets flexible benchmarks for encouraging hiring. In the months before that Oscar Sunday, we had been meeting quietly with power brokers in Hollywood, and then Frances McDormand's unexpected speech transformed the inclusion rider from a behind-the-scenes legal tool to something very public. Within 2 weeks of the Oscars, Michael B. Jordan, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Brie Larson, and several others announced their intention to use the inclusion rider. More recently, Michael B. Jordan and Alana Mayo announced first-look agreements with Amazon for television and Warner Media for film, the projects under which will use inclusion riders. And a film called Hala premiered at Sundance this year about a Muslim American girl navigating her traditional American high school. Hala used an inclusion rider too. McDormand galvanized its adoption, and leaders in the industry have made it real. But for me, as a lawyer, the rider's simplicity remains front and center. First, the ask is not burdensome. There already exists a deep bench of talented actors from underrepresented backgrounds waiting for the opportunity. Second, the rider relies on those who already have influence, asking them to use their bargaining power to advance change. And third, the greatest impact of the inclusion rider is the way it increases diversity in the smaller roles and the crew. These are regular working folks, not movie stars. The inclusion rider is a contract provision. It implements widely applicable best practices for building workplace diversity, so what's the big deal? I think the essential creativity of the inclusion rider is in the melding of 2 previously distinct areas: A-lister contract negotiations and hiring practice that challenge bias. We have long known what constitute best practices to foster deeper workplace diversity without running afoul of prohibitions on quotas. But they hadn't previously been linked to contracts. So Stacy and Fanchen and I drew upon the traditional Hollywood power structure and the traditional legal tool of the contract to create something altogether new. In so doing, the inclusion rider opened up a whole new world of opportunities that are not limited to Hollywood. Perhaps the most surprising thing about the inclusion rider is that it should be necessary at all. After all, the business case for diversity is well established. Take, for example, the amicus brief filed by Fortune 100 companies in Fisher versus the University of Texas, which is the most recent Supreme Court decision to consider the role of hiring in university admissions. That brief referred unabashedly to the business and economic imperative of maintaining the ability of universities to consider diversity in admissions, and it cites the growing body of evidence that companies committed to diversity are more successful. And while the business case for diversity is clear, it's also, I think, really important to take a look at the moral case turn back to Hollywood for just a moment as an example. Hollywood is not just an industry. It is the industry that determined how our world looks when reflected in the mirror of film and television, what stories get told, and who tells them. Hollywood shapes cultural narratives the world over, including the images our kids internalize. And the same imperative is there in other industries too. McKinsey's most recent report on women at work documents how women, in particular women of color, remain underrepresented in positions of leadership. And a similar report from the ABA's Commission on Women in the Profession documents systemic problems in our own profession. And the situations of professionals from marginalized backgrounds cannot hold a candle to the challenges faced by low-paid workers. Which brings me to a central point, a cautionary note, really. The term diversity and inclusion has become a buzzword, front and center in marketing strategies and litigation defense strategies, increasingly used to protect practices that genuinely undermine true inclusion. I want to be really clear here. To be authentic in the commitment to diversity and inclusion, it is not enough. It's not nearly enough to simply improve hiring practices. To sustain diverse workplaces, companies, firms, and organizations must commit to equality of opportunity as a core value that permeates their whole structure. That commitment must extend to a safe workplace culture, fair and equal pay, equitable evaluations and promotions, accommodations and leave for pregnancy, caregiving, and disabilities, and access to the courts. Oh man, I'm sorry, buddy. I've so been there. That we need an inclusion writer at all, that I need to talk about any of these issues at all, says so much, everything, really, about the nature of the obstacles and the failures of the existing framework. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about the rules. We're lawyers. We like rules. They're comfortable and they're safe. We've joined a profession that's all about rules and the hierarchies and traditions that flow from them. You've spent the last 3 years, maybe longer, learning the rules. What's fee simple? What's hearsay and what are its exceptions? What does the free exercise clause of the First Amendment provide? As I list these, I can hear Professors Pritchett and Sankiriko and Gordon in my head, and Professors Perry and Baker and Mann. They shaped my understanding of and appreciation for these rules. But they also taught me, and they taught you, much more. They taught us to think critically about those rules, to develop and exercise judgment about whether the rules make sense, about whether they're fair. These skills are central to using the law creatively. I'm sure you are all familiar with the term big law to describe large law firms who often practice in service of powerful clients. And many of you are heading for such law firms. These are exciting opportunities. Whether you're heading to that world or somewhere else, I want to challenge you to think about the idea of bigger law. What do I mean by that? I mean the underlying values and ambitions that drew you to the practice of law in the first place. If you are anything like me, you came to law school motivated by the desire to advance justice in the world. When I speak of bigger law, I'm speaking of law in service of justice. I'm sure you have stopped to consider at some point, and if not, do it now, how it is that there are so many lawyers and simultaneously such a profound dearth of competent representation for people and interests most in need. You will leave this beautiful hall, probably in about an hour, endowed with veritable superpowers, powers that are desperately needed by immigrants, workers, people of color, children, women, the environment. Your class is entering the legal profession at a time of pronounced social upheaval and uncertainty, much of it driven by new and emerging actors speaking truth to power. Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, the ongoing crisis at our southern border, climate change, I could just keep going. And I know you know what I'm talking about here because you have raised your voices and used your skills already. The legal profession itself, despite being dedicated to the cause of justice, is not immune to these issues. It's become increasingly clear to me through my own work that our hallowed professional traditions and institutions can be unwitting havens for bias and injustice, which is particularly insidious because this unfairness is often cloaked in the language of the law, in the rules. So as you begin your next chapter, I hope you will continue to raise your voices and use your skills to recalibrate our rules, our priorities, our profession. I fully believe that from that bravery, that willingness to challenge rules, traditions, and hierarchy will emerge a stronger legal profession with greater integrity and likely a stronger democracy, too. We're rule followers, but part of being a rule follower is speaking up when the rules are wrong and learning how and when to break them and remake them. I think this is what iconic civil rights leader John Lewis is talking about when he talks about getting into good trouble. There is a great tradition of lawyers using the courts and the political process to break and remake the rules in search of that more perfect union. Doing meaningful work, learning to extend and break and remake the rules, raising your voice for those without, it's deeply gratifying work, but I want to be really honest with you, it's really hard. I think it's important to be real about what it takes. We don't do ourselves or our profession any favors by masking the challenges. I think instead we foment unpreparedness and burnout. So how to do meaningful work and live a meaningful personal life? Career paths are long, and they need not be linear. Sometimes your first job is not your dream job. Instead, it's the one that allows you to pay off your loans, do meaningful pro bono work, and develop concrete skills. There is value in considering practical realities even as you dream. Don't lose track of those long-term goals, but be gentle with yourself and open to the unexpected. This next note may be a little hard to hear at this auspicious moment, but I hope you'll return to it at a quieter one. Our work, when pursued at its highest levels, involves sacrifice. But as my husband reminds me, there is no permanent balance or imbalance. It is dynamic and evolving, both in the short term. Some months we see our friends, we get enough sleep, we exercise, and others we're winning if we get the kids to school and feed them 3 meals a day. And in the long term, your career will have chapters. In my experience, a full life requires ruthless prioritization and regular recalibration. Identify your cornerstones. I think they're often elemental: sleep, exercise, nutrition, and a strong social network. You will have that coming out of Penn Law. It's a tremendous gift. Focusing on those sustains the work. That's the real meaning of self-care. It helps me also to remember that as hard as it may be for us to hold it together some days, it is infinitely harder for so many others. The intersection of my professional life and my personal identity is not lost on me. As a woman of color and a child of immigrants with young kids, when I'm clear-minded, I can see my own privilege and remember that as challenging as my routine is, most people face much more significant struggles. And so I am challenging myself and you to cultivate new skills, those of resilience and gratitude, to see my privilege and find joy in the work. We are so lucky to do what we do. And when we do it well, the rewards are immeasurable. You graduate today, right now, at a critical time, with a remarkable credential and tremendous skills that are badly needed. Use them well. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kalpana, for your remarks. You've given us so much to think about. I'm inspired myself by the concept of bigger law. I think all of us who work in the law can think bigger and think about how we can do more, as you have, to extend our principles and values using the traditional tools of law. It's a good lesson also for you, those of you who may be taking the bar this summer. Don't throw away your first-year contract notes. Who knows, you may change the world with them someday. And we're so proud of you and just so proud to count you as one of our Penn Law alumni. So we now come to the most celebratory part of this afternoon. The awarding of diplomas to the class of 2019. All right. Get ready, we're going to be clapping for about an hour, so pace yourself. Today we have 250 students receiving the JD degree, 116 students from 29 countries where they are already lawyers receiving the LLM degree, 5 students who've engaged in a multi-year scholarly course of study receiving the SJD, and 24 students in a new program receiving our Master in Law degree. A word about the last and our newest degree is consistent with our philosophy that the lawyers we train are going to be better lawyers if you're connected with the insights of other disciplines. The Master in Law is the converse proposition that many brilliant people who are experts and professionals in medicine, education, business, social work, work in heavily regulated fields, and they too would benefit from a short course, a one-year course in legal education. And that's what this degree represents. So these are experienced professionals in many cases who bring their insights from their fields into our halls. And this is the 4th year of this program. We now have the highest number yet with 24 graduates in that program. And so it's a great extension of our working across disciplines. Nearly 400 students in total will be coming across the stage. So I would request not that you hold your applause, but that you keep your applause going and give respect and recognition to all of these phenomenal graduates who are going to go out there and change the world for the better. Thank you, and we will begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Catherine Restrepo, and as both a proud member of the class of 1993 and the executive director of the Master in Law program, I'm delighted to present to you this year's recipients of the Master in Law degree. As Dean Ruger mentioned, this is a degree in law for those who wish to make a significant impact and enhance their work by gaining valuable and relevant legal knowledge in a variety of disciplines. We'll begin with Saksham Chadha. Arif Damji. Dana DeStefano. Paula Esmu. Naki Hather with daughter Amira. Kim Hufteaser in absentia. Sean Johnson. Congratulations. Barbara Leone. In absentia, we have Yun Lee and Sarah Markowitz. We next have Raul Martinez. Congratulations. William Matson. Emily Merritt McCulley. Kieran Musunuru. Logan O'Sullivan. Elspeth Christina Sarro. Eliza Seidenfeld. Sarah Sesker with daughter Olivia. Jordan Schaefer. Congratulations. And in absentia, we have Tammy Wright and Angela Zhu. Let's hear a round of congratulations to our Master in Law degree recipients.
Good afternoon. My name's Elise Luz Kramer, and like Catherine, I'm a JD graduate from the class of 1993 and the Executive Director of Graduate Programs. It is my great honor and privilege to present this year's graduates of Penn Law's Doctor of Science of Law, also known as the SJD. It is the highest degree awarded by Penn Law. These graduates have earned advanced degrees from Penn Law before earning this degree, and their studies have culminated in the production of a publishable dissertation on an original legal topic that has made a significant contribution to legal scholarship. And we'll begin with Kohav L’05 with son Omer. Parawi Kasitonan. Wei Wei Shen. Bing Hao Zhao, whose diploma is being presented by his wife, Shun Zhao, an LLM grad of 2003, JD grad of 2007, and accompanied by Wilmy and Athena. Jiao Chen Zhang? Okay. So together, let's congratulate the SJD graduates. It is now with great pleasure that I present to you Penn Law's 2019 LLM graduates. Hailing from 29 countries from around the world, they've already earned law degrees from top schools around the world, and many of them have significant work experience. They have completed a rigorous one-year program at Penn Law, taking classes alongside our JD students. So we will start with Astrid Ashar. Woo. Aluash Wanshawan Adekoya. Abima Fulua Ajala. Nouf Al-Douish. Ashish Alexander. Wasal Al-Fukuri with Isa, Faris, and Hassam. Hiba Al-Sharif. Paula Morales Di Ufo. Simon Herbert Bankert. Yiting Bao. William Barboza. Amanda Borelli. Kaidar Basoff with Iskander. Sergio Bonilla. Pablo Carbacas Para. Pedro Kai. Oscar Chanona. Oh, sorry, Matthew. Matthew Caulfield. Oscar Chanona Garcia. Sergio Chainma. Wei Feng Chen. In Young Cho. Sung Woo Choi. T-Tach Chu Char Chai Kulkarn. Sung Du Chung. Eduardo Coelho Calvacante with Enrique. Lorenzo Colombani. Wei Dai. Michel de Klerk. Andres Diaz Grillo. Natalia Esparza Salas. Paulina Flores Elizano. Sergio Gallego Morales. Antonio Gana. Diego Garcia Miron. Maria Garrido Cordoba. Radhika Gol. Rong Gu. Budi Wadoro Gunanwan. Almitra Gupta. Arpit Gupta. Alicia Hart. Cho Wei Shu. Ranjani Jagannath. Yero John. Zhao Zhang. Valeria Jose Ifarraguirre. Duan Chong with J.E. Sarato Margaret Kitchener. Daisuke Kojima. Annabelle Kong, in absentia. Gabrielle Leo Vazami. Sabine Lee. Siying Lee. Wei Lee. Xiaobo Li. Yeshong Li. Chaedong Leong. Hante Lim. Lin Liu. Yin Yun Lo. Ray Fan Ma. Alexandra Marata. Oh, yep. Rodrigo Martinez, our class president. All right. Charles McComb. Tabako Muluku. Camille Najomo. Dimas Nadarad Ditia. Bruno Navarro. Come on up. Nakul Nayak. Mauricio Nieto. Tomo Nomata. Marina Ojika. Alufemi Omoshui. Zansaya Anglasova. With Ilaya and Shunan Pan, in absentia. Jai Hai Park. Hamish Powery. Jose Preciado. Orion Present. Noman Quadri. Chuching Ren. Kavi Reza Sada. Imod Rizkala. Alonso Rodriguez. Shakar. Shatu Park Savigamin. Radhika Saxena. Julia Sheikman. Maria Segura España. Ashna Sheikh. Christoph Zielman. Gabriel Silva. Tanmay Singh. Johannes Smith. Carlos Sokolo. David Tanuji Cohn. Yusuke Tomoko Fuji. Takuya Uaharo with Sumiri. Dorothy Ufut. Moro Valente Cano. Yi Wan. Hui Yang Wang. Meng Wang in absentia. Xiaofei Wang in absentia. Yue Wang. Yu Hui Wang. Felicitas Weber. Han Wu. Chen Yang Shu. Jia Yi Yong. Okay. Chen Gong Yuan in absentia. Mohammed Zishan Zafur. Daying Zhang. Yuan Zhao. Yun Yi Zhao. Zhao Chong Zhou. Please join me in congratulating all the LLM graduates.
Dean Ruger, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct honor to present to you Penn Law's JD class of 2019. Laurent Abergel. Henry A.G. Michelle Azen. James Albrecht. Eleanor Aldis. Apurajita Ali. Patricia Amsalem. Kari Anderson. Gregory Arpino. Mered Osfor. Amber Osley. Cameron Bagari. Benjamin Barocas. Benjamin Barsky. Noah Becker. Nicholas Bellos. Justin Berg. Neha Bhatt. Sarah Bisco. Sarah Bleiberg. Michelle Bone. Patrick Boynton. Ariana Brill. Jessica Broadman. Frank Brumel. Mikkel Broplay. Zoe Brumfield Myers. E. Kai. Louis Capozzi. Sabine Cardio. John Cartwright. Diploma presented by Dad, Congressman Matthew Cartwright, a 1986 graduate of Penn Law. Jacqueline Castellar. Shabelle Castro. Alyssa Chai. Chloe Lynn Chartouni Leparasi. Kevin Chang. Christina Chung. Rachel Chigger, joined by Nathaniel, age 5 months. Christine Cho, in absentia. Meredith Christian. Celeste Cirillo Penn. Allie Cohen. Francesca Crooks, diploma presented by Dad, Dr. Gary Crooks, a member of the Penn Medicine faculty. Kari Cyrus. Anna DeGento. Emily Danzer. Elizabeth Daly. Alexander Daniels. Paul Devasti. Chirag Desai. Gabrielle D'Angelo. Taylor Dow, diploma presented by mom Paula Dow, a 1980 graduate of Penn Law. Kevin Downs. Zachary Dunn. Clark Edmond. It's okay. You keep me on. David Ehrman. James Ermilio. Elizabeth Fassey. William Fadulo. Zachary Feldman, diploma presented by Dad Louis Feldman, a 1992 graduate of Penn Law. Rafaela Fishman. Emma Fleming. Matthew French. Michelle Fu. Kelly Funderburg. Jean Gabat. Shane Gare. Ryan Gallia. Ruby Galen. Claudia Gallagher. Carrie Gallagher. Emily Garber. Austin Gasson. John Gould. Kimberly Grambo. Alexander Green. Barrett Greenwell. Robert Gregory. Ebenezer Jesse. Aiden Hamilton. Andrew Hartman, in absentia. Michael Hartz. Liana Harutzian. Dorothy Hazen. Courtney Helt. Jonathan Hess. Elia Higuchi. Richard Hildreth. Sarah Hill. Edwin Hodges. Reed Hopkins. Christopher Iacono. Alexa Jacobson. Christine Jung. Aretta Jez. Elizabeth John. Michael Joseph. Teddy Josephson. Aaron Cahan. Dan Kane. Rachel Klapowitz. Heath Kahn. Yes. Dooley Kim. Si-chan Kim. Alexander Kleinhaus Rasisi. Adam Napton. Georgia Nauer. Jared Koch. Maggie Copel. Jesse Lambert. Tina Lopsia. William LaRosa. Kevin Lawler. Andrew Lay. Danielle Lazarus, diploma presented by Dad Rick Lazarus, a 1990 graduate of Penn Law. Margaret Ledak. Bo-Mi Lee. Edward Lee. Sarah Lee. Amanda LaSavage. Mary Lester. Julia Levinson. Yushen Liu. Patricia Liverpool. Dylan Lojak. Raul Laredo. Emily Lubin. Brendan Lum. Sarah Madigan. Matthew Mai. Richard Malik, joined by Goldie, age 6, Aviva, age 5, and Jacob, age 2. Jesse Marks, joined by Avery, age 4. Oh, looks great. John Martin. Kelsey Matavish. Brian McIntyre, in absentia. Oh, sorry. Present. Aaron McKenney. Diploma presented by Dad Paul McKenney, a senior lecturer at Penn Law, joined by William, age 5, and Michael, 11 months. George Magali. Shada Milani. Caitlin Miller. Dylan Miller. Stephen Mills. Jacob Mitchell. Kevin Moran. Samuel Moran. Shawnee Morgan, in absentia. Emma Morgenstern. Jacob Morton. Andrew Mosius. Alessandra Mangioli. Alexandra Munson. Christine Mazzello. Sukwi Nam. Charles Neri. Mackenzie Neal. Joseph Nola. Spencer Nord. Patrick Nutter. Daniel O'Brien. Adrian Parlow. Alexander Patrick. Rachel Perlman. John Peng, in absentia. Anya Perret. Kaylin Perry, in absentia. Laura Pettinelli. Gabrielle Piper. Joshua Patel. John Plotz, diploma presented by Dad Robert Plotz, a 1980 graduate of Penn Law. Shira Poliak. Adam Poliner. Emily Pertel. Aaron Quick. Emily Raber. George Ray Grant. Stephanie Ramirez. Carolyn Rausch, diploma presented by Dad Alan Rausch, a 1983 graduate of Penn Law. Andrew Ravitz. Jennifer Reich, in absentia. Aaron Reed. Brian Reed. Shizoff Reif. Patrick Reichel. Allison Reynolds. Abigail Rosenblum. Sabrina Ruscelli. Megan Ryan. Alana Saltz. Abigail Samuels. John Skifalaqua. Leanne Shriver. Gregory Schuster. Gaurav Sen. Joanna Setzer. Evan Shaver. Catherine Shaw. Hal Shimkowski. Karen Shmulevich. Samantha Siegler. Anthony Sierra. Jacob Silvers. Adriana Simmons. Amanda Simmons. Michael Sims. Ryan Singer. Rupali Singhal. Jenna Smith. Mason Smith. Nicole Smith. Sarah Smith. Benjamin Samoji. Natalie Sosa, joined by Isabel 5 and Elena 3. Carmina Spencer. Samantha Stowers. Nicole Strickar. Sean Summers. Aaron Sweeney. Anthony Tan. Jane Tomich. Jesse Treverton. Chimezia Odozo. Jose Valenzuela. Thomas Vasilou. Quincy Vienne. Ian Warrenbrock. Brendan Walden, in absentia. Catherine Waldman. Jewel Walsh. Patricia Walsh. Annalie Wisniat. James Wheeler. Greta Wiesner. Ashley Williams. Brady Williams. Andrew Wilson. Alyssa Wolfington. Brandon Wong. Simone Worthy, in absentia. Jenica Ragg. Darian Wynn. Congratulations. Lauren Wizomerski. Jenny Shah. Jia Shu. Jessica Yang. Brian Ye. Guyan Yu. Megan York. Arian Zarai. Wenqi Zhang. Karan Zoria. Your JD class of 2019.
Let's hear it for all of our graduates 2019. All right. I will note, we also, it's not our practice to make individual award presentations, but we do want to salute in your program our various award recipients who've gotten, whose achievement we celebrate as well. Now, a couple other closing things. First, did anybody get the wrong diploma with somebody else's name on it? Raise your hand. I knew the answer is no, because I want to thank the best registrar in the country at any law school, Claire Wallace, and all of the Penn Law staff who around the building who have helped us, as every year, helped this event go so smoothly. Thank you all for what you do all year long, as well as today. And I do want to, I'm going to ask the audience to remain in your places until the platform party and graduates have left the auditorium. One last round of applause again for the graduates, for your families. The families, we're so, thank you for sending us your students. And I hereby declare the 2019 Penn Law Commencement concluded. Your graduates of Penn Law, congratulations.